Hey guys, it's Stove Talk with Matt. This is, without a doubt, in my opinion, the most mysterious stove channel and related videos on all of YouTube related to masonry heaters, Russian stoves, furnaces. Came across something called, the channel in Russian translates to PDA. You can see the original video started being made 14 years ago. The furnace of the ancient Aryans. Now, there's a negative connotation to that name. It has nothing to do with that. The ancient Aryans has nothing to do with World War II or anything like that. So let's get that out of the way. Now, because I'm such a nut, I've been looking at this stuff for, I don't know, 20 hours. And of course, in none of these videos, and even some of them can't be translated, some Google has a poor translation, in any of the, they don't really explain what this is all about. I mean, if I wasn't so crazy in terms of being addicted to this stuff, I've spent over 20 hours, and I'll just share with you what I've learned. What is the ancient firebox of the ancient Aryans, and what is this all about? How does it work? I mean, I only can get you about halfway there. Maybe I know 60%. But of course, there's never anything explained. The people that have built this stove watching this video, the people in Russia, they seem to understand it, a few people. They don't explain it. They don't provide diagrams. The person himself, you watch some of the other videos, you say, is this guy a little off? Is he a little, who knows? I mean, he seems a little off. But then, as he answers a lot of questions, although it's translated from Russian to English, in under the videos, and he seems very well spoken and very coherent when he answers the questions. So this is a stove mystery, but it's fascinating. This is probably not for anybody that is not a hardcore masonry stove or Russian heater or stove aficionado. I'm going to try to make this as interesting as I can, but I can't imagine it would be too interesting to most people. So this is the guy. This is 6 years ago. It says here, you can't read it, stove bath. He's like a mad scientist. He's just making a stove bath out in the middle of a field. And I mean, we're, thousands of bricks laying around. And at first I thought, this guy's crazy. This is, but then the more, and I wouldn't put much stock. Let me turn the volume up. I wouldn't put much stock in it. I'm not interested in the stove bath, guys. I'm just giving an example of what this guy, he lights a giant fire. And you know how long it would take to build up 1,000 bricks inside a dome? And other people have made his stoves and they say they work. But I feel I'm an expert in this. I've put thousands of hours into this, and I can't quite figure out what this is all about. So, okay, Matt, we got the point. It's a mystery. We're going to figure it out together. So he builds this giant structure out in some field somewhere, lights some giant fire. I guess he's going to get in as a sauna. I don't know. It's strange up and down. Let's get back to the basics. Let me share with what I know, and we'll go from there. Okay, no conclusions as of now. Let me just tell you everything I know. Of course, if he provided just a few paragraphs as to this is the basis of what the stoves of the ancient Aryans is all about, and a few diagrams, of course, none of that information is provided. You have to spend hundreds of hours trying to put the pieces together. So, number one, he is a huge believer in a Hearth firebox. Not a grate firebox. Almost all Russian stoves, a lot of masonry heaters have a grate. The air flows up through the grate from underneath. Doesn't like that at all. And in the points he's made, little pieces I've been able to put together. The wood does burn out very, very quickly. You rage up a masonry heater for an hour and a half, huge temperatures, and then if it has enough mass and so many thousands and thousands of pounds, it'll radiate out. But it goes out very quickly. He's saying I know for a fact that the Hearth firebox. He's saying when it's constructed properly, the air comes in from the front. There is no grate underneath. The coals and the wood will last much, much longer, and there's no doubt about it. And the main interest to people like us is there's coals in the morning to restart the fire again. And he usually makes this. You can see my little cursor here. Usually there is a little bit of a channel up top where it squeezes. This is it's going up into a secondary chamber. Let me go back. Firebox is Hearth, no grate, air comes in from the front, and then there is this mini channel up top that leads to like what you would almost call a rocket stove port, whether it's like one brick across or one brick coming from the back towards us. It's like a rocket stove port at the top of the Firebox. Hearth, not great. So then the people, one of his designs, it goes up here into a secondary chamber. Let me just let this play so you can see the secondary. Into a secondary chamber, which is pretty tall and pretty high. Is there a better view of this? I have to keep going back. And I know from my own design that when the flame is allowed to lap up high like this, it will kill off 98% of the smoke. You do get a very smoke-free fire. Let me go forward. Again, there's so much here. I don't know exactly what we're looking at, guys. In this design, yeah, he's letting you look into the upper chamber, even though it's completely open here. There's no glass. He's using it as a kiln in this example. He just has pottery on this upper chamber, and here it's not like a rectangular rocket stove port. He has more of a circle. Above this is that circle you just saw, and it's a circle that comes up. The masonry and the clay is built up maybe 4 or 5 inches. And the top of this secondary chamber up top is in many cases, it's rounded, but it's very high. And somehow he's creating these super ridiculously hot temperatures in the secondary chamber, which is, firing the pottery just from this. So is there anything else in this video? Sorry, guys, I'm going to be a little all over the place here. Again, this is only for maybe 5 people that are just fascinated by what could be being presented here. I know there is no doubt, though, that a Hearth firebox like this, and his fireboxes are extremely deep. We'll get into those designs later. Versus a grate where the air flows up, your wood will last much, much longer. You have coals in the morning. There are huge advantages. Firebox gets hotter, and I think when you can create, it will smoke for a little while, but once you create these absurd temperatures in the firebox and allow the flames to lap up very high in this secondary chamber, almost all the smoke will be eaten up. It's just the temperatures are just too high. Of course, no secondary air or all that rocket stove tinkering stuff. Okay, this is the guy, and turn the volume off. That's all in Russian. I thought, oh, we're going to actually see something now. We're actually going to see what he's building. Of course, it's not clear. It's all over the place, as usual. And somebody yelling at me now going, "What, Matt, what makes you think this guy has any secrets? He could be some lunatic." He could be, but I've seen the way he answers the questions underneath his videos. This guy knows something. Or trust me, I wouldn't have spent as much time on it as I did. And surely, when I came across this one, surely we're gonna see what's going on here. No, it's almost impossible to figure out. I'm gonna go through this quickly. Very quickly, the building is like, well, what is that, the back or the front? And I've looked at this so many times. I mean, I kind of know that's the back, what's going on. And maybe there's just a few things to try to point out to you. And you're saying to yourself, look at this piece of shit. This guy knows something. Trust me. I wouldn't have spent so much time on it. Let me see if there's a few spots of this video where I could show you. Just stuffs in his insulation there between the firebox and the outer parts of the stove. Here, this is kind of like the fire is going to rage up through these openings. The stove we looked at initially had one large port the size of the fire brick that allowed the flames to come up into that secondary chamber. Here, there's he's almost using this like the Kuznetsov stoves would create a catalyst. They create a catalyst with fire brick, letting the flames squeeze through. But again, I don't want to stray too much. Let's get back to the basics. Let's see if there's anything about the firebox here that I can show you. Yeah, okay, this is what I want to show you, I think. And again, this is so hard to know what's coming up next, guys. I know it's going to take long. I'll apologize one more time. This is only for absolute stove aficionados and absolute stove freaks like me. Come on, show us the firebox. Okay, here we go. Back, and I'll pause it. All right. Another element of this ancient Aryan firebox stove is they look like this when he builds them. They can be similar to a rocket stove J tube, but his firebox is usually like dug into the ground, this is extremely deep. So it's not like 2 bricks down here, you just throw wood in here. His firebox go down like 1.5 feet, 2 feet. And most of the whole thing starts to cook at a ridiculous high temperature. Of course, air is just drawn in the front. He eventually will cover this with bricks. And then he has, here you can see, he doesn't have that one port in the back. He has 1, 2, 3, 4 ways for the hot flames and gases to escape up into the secondary chamber. But there is no grate under here. It's not, some of it is underground, but it is good 2, 3 feet down. Huge Hearth fireboxes. And I think with this one, there's no rocket stove, but he ends up putting a barrel over top of where the, I guess there's no good place to show you guys. He ends up putting a barrel over where the gases come out, but there is no riser that goes up into the top of the barrel. A rocket stove riser would go up and end 2 inches away from the top of the barrel, and the heat would cascade down the sides. He doesn't have that. I've done that before. The heat will rise up into a barrel and heat the barrel up, even if there is no riser going into the barrel. I've done that. So let's see if we can, I guess if I have one person left with me here, this is kind of also for me to put everything together in a video, so I have everything. See, look at the firebox is like almost like underground. It's huge and it's deep. And you know, once the draft is established, like a J-tube rocket stove, you're not going to get any smoke out the front. Not the safest thing to have in your house from an insurance perspective, or from even from like a carbon monoxide perspective. But if everything's being drawn in the front, you know, people have open fireplaces, right? And nobody. I'm all paranoid now because of what happened to me recently, but who knows exactly what happened to me. You know, people have open fireplaces and they don't get sick. So here, see how deep that firebox is? And is this flame being drawn around to the left side? I don't know, but you'll see as he just keeps adding and adding wood and then slowly blocking it off. I'm fast forwarding quickly. Where now he's piled up. It's like 2 feet tall of wood. And it is ridiculous temperatures. And I know part of the design is to let the air skim across the top. You know, once everything's lit, the air skims across the top. And I know that you know, whatever he's put in here, I mean, this wood would last, easily last overnight, last hours and hours and hours, where you only get about an hour and a half of a good burn out of a masonry heater or Russian stove that has a grate underneath. See, even that brick he's put up top is angled. Air is pushed down and air runs across the top of a firebox loaded up all with burning wood. I guess he slowly adds it till it's all lit, and with the air slowly burning across the top, maybe the principle is similar to like the Sidor stove, that only the top is burning, the underside's just cooking. So you're going to have a firebox of wood in there for 5-6 hours potentially. And, you know, it's not a J-tube rocket stove. You know, the air it's open like that. The air is rushing down, straight down, and the sticks are like standing up, and only the bottom of the sticks are burning. This is like only everything's burning and cooking because he's added the wood slowly, but only the very top has the flame lapping across. So it's like, one of the concepts I took away from it is, and you see that brick, how it's angled to push the air comes in, hits the brick, and goes down. It's almost like you slowly add wood till you get this, you know, 6, 7, 8 pieces of wood, all cooking, and then flames going well, and you fill it up to the top, a very, very deep and high firebox. And then if the flames are just lapping across the top, then you're going to have that wood in there for hours and hours and hours. And he put a barrel over the back end, even with no riser, just showing it will get hot, no doubt. So I guess I'll pause it here, go to the next video. Deep firebox and air lapping across the top of a deep firebox is principle number 2, or whatever principle we're on. Some of his videos go back 14 years. This one only 2 years. And this really shows This one shows the firebox real well. I'm going to skip around how deep it is. It just goes down into the dirt. 4 or 5 layers tall. Let me skip as he builds it. The back wall has a little shelf. You'll see the front ends up. And then there's that, when we first started looking at videos, I'll pause it. There's that little, he has like a little mini channel up top, a little mini tunnel. Remember, I mentioned that in one of the first few minutes coming into the video. I wonder if he'll do that here, but that's might be what, or he somebody might be doing. He's just doing it, Matt, so he can lay the bricks across. I mean, that channel up top may be nothing more than a way to bridge the bricks across without having to use lentils or angle irons. Maybe. But to me, there was something to that in other people that have constructed similar stoves. So let me just continue. How deep that firebox is, and the air will come in from the front and then lap across the top. And again, the flames will not exit out the bottom of this firebox or anything. It comes in across the top of the air, and the whole thing is deep, but then it will exit out the top as well. And unlike the first stoves we looked at coming in, there was that port that went up straight up and above. These stoves, at least we're looking at now, the exit is out the back, not a port going into a secondary chamber above. So there's a difference between the stove we looked at coming in and this stove. But you'll see the firebox ends up looking like what we've been looking at. Deep as heck, insulated. If it was all above ground, I'm sure he probably would say insulate the heck out of it. So the fire, I think one of the principles here is the firebox itself, as you add wood slowly and the bottom burns and you add more, and it just, with it's insulated or if it's in the ground, it would get to absurd temperatures. You're like, you'd end up with like 3 5-gallon buckets worth of coals after 4 or 5 hours. You have to achieve the absurd temperatures. And you'd say, well, there's no air rushing through that firebox. It's dead. But the principle has to be slowly get everything cooking. If you just fill this up with hardwood and you light the top, even with lighter fluid, the bottom's never going to burn, in my opinion. It's never going to I don't think so. But I'll play with this, in my backyard in a few weeks. But I think you have to add slowly. I think. Of course, he doesn't give any information. Nobody that builds the stoves gives the information. Anyway, it's just speculation. And then I think in this one he puts a barrel. See, it's just going to go out the back, up that dirt path. He's going to put a barrel over top. All right, this is the back. The closest, that little square exit closest to us is where he's going to put the pipe or the chimney, the 6-inch pipe. And then the square, or what you're looking at towards the top of the screen, that is just like the platform to hold the barrel. His firebox is at the very top of what you can see. That's what gets deep, a deep hearth firebox. And it comes up, and he's just made a platform or a square to hold the barrel. There is no riser that goes up into the barrel. And from my own experience, there is a ton of heat that will go up into a barrel without a riser. It's not just going to all flow out the chimney, although much of it will. Again, the bottom square there is where the chimney's pipe's going to go. There, the far left is his deep ass firebox. The barrel, part where the barrel sits is not as deep. It's only 8 to 10 inches. Dirt's at the bottom, and then the flame will skim along the top of all that wood in the firebox, skim under the barrel. The barrel will heat up, and then out. He hasn't put a pipe on that square on the right yet, which is the chimney. I mean, you said, someone said, look at this crap. It looks like hell. How could this guy be a master stove maker? Maybe he's crazy. I don't know. I'm just telling you, I just, one more time, I think there's something to this. Because you can tell from the quality of his firebox, how well it's burning, how we'll look at more fireboxes. You say that burn's going to last, the burn itself is going to last 8 hours. So, this looks like hell. I'll give you that. That firebox is deep. Anyway, I guess I'm saying the same stuff, but okay, here we go. He's got that whole firebox filled up all the way. Again, from my experience, you fill that up. If you try to light everything at once, no way. It's going to smoke. It'll smoke out 2 towns over. I would say you have to add wood slowly, slowly, and and it probably takes. There's an art to loading these fireboxes over a course of 45 minutes to an hour, where you finally get it piled up. Once you get it piled up, though, I've seen the Russians comment and stuff under videos. I mean, once you have it there with a firebox that's 2 or 3 feet deep, and it's like this, it would just take, forever to lose the coals. You'd have coals 12, 14, 16 hours later. But what I'm always concerned about, smoking out neighbors and smoking out, I don't think it's right to have a stove that just smokes and smokes. I don't care one bit about Al Gore. It's just a courtesy thing for neighbors. So that would be an issue. He never shows really the pipe, how much smoke's coming out. I'm going to go back. But again, let me go back. That much heat, that is an absurd temperature. That's about as hot as any firebox you'll ever see. Wood can only get to a certain amount. It's not coal. It's going to eat up the smoke. It's just too hot. So is it a trade-off? Maybe a stove like this will smoke for 20 minutes, and once you get that firebox, full and deep, and the air is skimming across the top, maybe he's even filled it up even more. Maybe it won't smoke, at that point. And then eventually does close it off. The air doesn't come in the top like a J rocket stove. It comes in on the side or straight and then flows across the top. But if that wood underneath 2 feet down wasn't already like totally cooking, it would be smoke central. I think. Somebody said, well, the heat on the top is enough to kill the smoke on the bottom. I don't know. Of course, he doesn't explain it, and the few Russians that have built the stoves don't explain it. And I was like, I'm at my wit's end. I'm just going to make this video. You can see how it just flows along the top. And did he put a barrel on this one? I guess, yeah, he did. And then eventually he's very much closed it off. And I don't know if anybody, we can figure this out. I know one of the great advantages is to have, forget, you go to bed at night at 10 o'clock and wake up with coals in the morning. A lot of people complain about their stoves. This would have coals for forever. Like, 20 hours later, you could have enough coals to start enough fire, which is nice. And it's pretty simple. I mean, it's just deep. This design is different from the first design we had coming in. Deep firebox, which filled up high enough, or slowly adding wood till it's all the way up top. The air flows across the top, just a 5-inch little mini section. And it doesn't, the air doesn't go down into the firebox it just flows across the top, continues to flow across the top, and throws a barrel on top with no riser to get some immediate heat. And then there's just a pipe on the other side of the barrel. So this stove is relatively simple. But what frustrates me is he doesn't say anything like, I've been over these so many different times. I don't know why the smoke's pouring out the front there. Or what, that's not, I don't know if he's breaking it down, or he took the barrel off, I think, here. Let me see if there's anything else. Here he's got it fired back up, and there's so much wood it's even sticking out the front. But no, you can see there's no smoke like a J rocket stove. People have the J's in their houses. No smoke. There'd be less smoke chance of coming out into the house with something like this than a J. Sometimes with a J rocket, it will burn up the J and it will smoke into the house from time to time. I mean, that if you have a J rocket stove in your house, you really need an old drafty house, or to me, it's unsafe. There's just too many chances. If you don't put sticks in perfectly, it can burn upwards and smoke can come out into the house. This is safer because smoke's coming in on the side. And once everything's going in your firebox, see, it looks like he's only halfway done. He's the bottom part, but he's adding more wood. He's trying to fill it up. And then once he fills it up, then he cuts off the air supply, makes it so it's just a slit. And then that's where your coals and wood probably, it probably takes, like with my I have a great wood stove, a grate like comes from the bottom, an iron wood stove, and you only keep burning for an hour and 10 minutes. You lose everything. It just burns everything up like that. You never have coals overnight. A hearth stove is far superior to a grate stove. With a grate, you can't have coals overnight. It just burns everything up instantly because the wood comes up from the bottom, and it can be a tremendous waste of wood. You'll go through, at least with an iron stove, it's a different philosophy with a masonry heater or a Russian stove, because you only burn it twice a day for an hour and a half. You burn it for an hour and a half in the morning, you burn it for an hour and a half at 8 o'clock at night, then the 1,000 bricks hold the heat and radiate out the heat slowly. With an iron stove, an iron stove and a grate, they don't, I've learned the hard way, they don't go together. Okay, let's see why I saved this video. I have no idea what's coming. Well, I've seen them a few times. I just, I don't know where I am here. Okay, Firebox, deep Firebox, Hearth, blasts up into a secondary chamber. Here, he's not allowing the flames to blast up. The secondary chamber is very high, but it hits initially a very low ceiling on the secondary chamber, which creates, very similar to when people that design a port for a rocket stove, whether the port is in the back or the port is on the top of a rocket stove, batch box, the flames swirl around and mix. You can see the flames mostly swirling off to the left, but also to the right. It should be equal, and then that really does eat up a ton of smoke. So it's kind of an interesting concept. You slam the top ceiling early, use that little ceiling to swirl the gases together, and then allow the gases to escape up into a much higher secondary chamber. Again, I don't know if this is one of his kilns. I know one of the basic designs for this, his channel is called PDA. PDA, I don't know what that means. Again, that's just the English translation from the Russian. Is a firebox, and then in the back is just like a port, like a rocket stove port, like one brick across or maybe a little bit longer. It could be front to back or left to right. And I'd like to try this sometime. Have the port, on the top slam against a ceiling that's only 4 inches high, and then have the flames lap up high. I know from my own experience building hundreds and hundreds of different designs that when in doubt, if a high firebox that allows the flames to lap up high will always eat up, 90 to 95% of the smoke without secondary air or anything like that. So that is, with that low ceiling in the back, that is the principle of a rocket stove port. In the old days with the rocket stoves, they try to create like the venturi, the swirling around. But now they've determined it's better to have it slam against something and to have the gases mix that way to create no smoke. So that's the end of this video. Okay, let's do this video. Turn the sound off. He's got just a big old square. The walls are angled in a bit. There's a port in the back, very similar to a batchbox rocket stove port. But he's got these massive bricks or rocks piled up where it's that principle where the gases are skimming across the top of his very deep firebox. So the gases are also going to be allowed to pass around the left side and around the right side, because those rocks don't go all the way to the sides. It's similar to like a Kuznetsov dry slit or dry joint or dry seam. But I do remember in this video, can I skip ahead? Yeah, he does light everything up, and you can see the way the flames are acting. I'll show you that. The purpose of the rocks is just to block off the port a bit, so the air travels across the top of a deep firebox and, kind of curves around the rocks down into the port. And, what that does over having just a port in the back, like a batchbox rocket stove would have a port into the riser. He doesn't have a riser. He does not, in any of these, he does not have a traditional rocket stove riser. The rocket stove riser is responsible, with its massive temperatures, of eating up a lot of smoke. And it's also responsible for the mixing. Primarily is what creates the no smoke is turbulence mixing into a relatively small riser in a rocket stove. Everything mixes around at super high 1,000-degree plus temperatures. All the smoke is eaten up. All right, let's keep showing the same stuff. I'm fast forwarding. Uh-oh. It's got walking the mile. Come on, I'm gonna have to use this to fast forward. He's not doing it. He's talking. We can't understand him. And there's no, well, there is translation in this one, but sometimes the translation is so far off. Okay, guys, this is what we're dealing with here. And then he's lighting it up. He's blocked it off. I have no idea. Is that his upper chamber? Is that an upper chamber? Because the gases are coming from the bottom and slamming across the top. A lot of times for his test, he has like the upper and the lower. No, this is not the upper chamber. This is his firebox. I don't know. Like the gases are, the air is flowing over that hump, and it's a lot of the over that hump which he made with those rocks. The gases are slamming up into the ceiling. Maybe because of that hump, they slam up and then eventually are drawn down through that port. Maybe that slamming up into the ceiling creates like the rocket stove port turbulence and eats up a lot of smoke. Here, this would be 15 or 20 minutes or 30 minutes later. He's got the whole firebox as usual, filled up with wood. Like 7 pieces of oak. He's got the air as usual flowing over the top, and because there's so much wood now that those rocks he put isn't making a hump. The air is just, it's flowing over the wood, and then it's flowing over those rocks, and then it would be pulled down through that port. And there's probably not a whole lot more in this video, but he usually gets to this spot where he's got this huge, deep firebox, just go back, full of wood. And my big thing is, how long does it take to get that? Is he adding wood little by little over a 20-minute period, over a 40-minute period? Or I just can't imagine he's just, it seems like it happens over time. It's not like he's throwing 8 pieces in, and it would just, with the air just flowing over the top, the bottom would smoke really, really bad. I think you have to get the bottom cooking really well first and then add wood slowly, I think. Of course, nothing's clear. So I do know, you can just almost tell from some of these pictures and some of these videos, the temperatures he creates inside the firebox, just enormous. But, that would come with 6 or 7 pieces of oak plus a really well insulated firebox. There's the port off to the left. Really well insulated, or anything that's half buried underground, it's going to act as insulation. And you can just, I guess this has got to be slow-mo. He slowed the video down, but the temperatures are just off the charts. And once you get the temperatures to this level, there's no smoke. It's just, everything is just immediately eaten up. So it is important, I think, what he does. He narrows down the air opening over time, and the air flows across the top of the wood stack. And this is, the wood is almost down here. It's been going for hours. He narrows down the air opening to it's the air comes across the top, not in from the bottom, across the top of the firewood stack, and it becomes like, not a slit, but 8 inches long by 2 inches wide, and that actually can create more heat. If you add too much air and allow in too much air, it acts as air conditioning. You're just letting in cold air. The fire, it's an art. You give it just enough air for maximum temperatures and maximum combustion, maximum smoke burn up. If you give it 5% more, you're just putting in cold air conditioning, which creates smoke. You can absolutely, people don't realize, you can have too much air into a firebox, and that will create cooler temperatures and smoke. Let's see if there's anything else. I'm going to skip way ahead. What's he taking temperature of there? Where's he shoved that insulation? I don't think there's much we're missing out on here, guys. Is this what? This is his upper chamber, I guess. Let me go back. Oh, boy. I can't read your Russian. I don't know what that says. It's probably his upper chamber. Or is that... No, that's his port in the back. That's just the regular... That's just his firebox. The port is just like this square here. It's not a long rectangular port. He just has this square, and everything funnels through there. I'm sure it acts like a rocket stove port, but this is his firebox. Again, always a hearth, never a grate. Is there anything else here? No. He's probably measuring the temperature like hours and hours later, and it's probably still, you know, all those bricks are still holding all the heat, which is the main principle behind a masonry heater or Russian stove. All right, that's the end of this video. Let's see if there's any more. I think there's one or two more. Okay, this is from another, you can't see the name of the YouTube channel, but what lends credibility to what this guy's doing is other Russians have used his design. His name's Kirill Rudd, the original mad scientist. He said, well, I've used his designs to make successful stoves. So without that, I probably wouldn't even be showing it to you. So this is a totally different YouTube channel where this person has incorporated Kirill's basic design elements to create a stove that works in their home. And this is very similar. Again, this is not the PDA channel. It's another Russian channel. He's done something very similar to what we just looked at. Created like a hump or a mound to go over. And the firebox is full of, really deep and full of wood. And it has to go over a mound of these just stacked up rocks, or I don't, you know, it looks like long bricks, but I don't, you know, you couldn't use cinder block or anything, or concrete block. The temperatures would destroy it, turn it into powder in just a few days. I think this guy then just shows you, okay, he's going to show you his pipe, and there's no smoke. He's got some jury-rigged pipe up alongside the window, and well, it's not exactly how I would do it, but hey, what the heck? Their code and regulations are a little bit less out there. So in Russia. So let's see. He goes back, and he's got it. Yeah, I mean, he's got, see how he has the bottom, the air on the bottom is blocked off. All right, let me pause this. The air on the bottom, in one of these principles, the design principles of these, the hearth or firebox of the ancient Aryans is, once you get everything going, or even from the beginning, maybe not quite from the beginning, you block it off so the air comes over the top of the firewood. I know I've mentioned that several times. That's different than most of the prevailing attitude is have air always coming from the bottom, underneath via grate, or at least along the bottom. This is blocking it off and having it flow over the top. And he also has incorporated, well, I called it like, you know, the brick, a little mini ceiling juts out here, where to me it would almost guide, you know, you'd get super high temperatures guiding along this top channel. But some people may say, Matt, he's just angling these bricks in like little shelves so he can bridge the top without an angle iron or a lintel. It may be that simple. I don't know. For some reason, I kind of like this in design. Let me just finish this out. So this is, again, somebody else that's really copied the design of what we just looked at, having it go over this hump. The back hump is really more like a back wall to hold a really deep firebox. It laps over the top and then goes down. It's interesting. Okay, last video here is the simplest. Take the sound out. This is just some of the design of what, you know, PDA design, but in an outdoor pizza oven. And this is not, again, his design does vary. This is the simple design we looked at, I guess, in the first video. It's just a firebox, a hearth firebox is below, and the gases or flame is allowed to rise up through like a one brick port, 1 brick long, I would make it a little bit longer, lengthwise or widthwise, rectangular port into the secondary upper chamber. So there, pause. There's your typical, this is like your typical firebox of what this guy Kirill Rudd proposes. All hearth, no grate. Air comes in from the front. If you're going to have a, here it's a small firebox. So again, the air is coming in from the front. But see, if you remember what that guy Kirill was proposing with the fireboxes in other videos, if this is super deep, like if this goes down 1.5 feet, so you can load 7 or 8 pieces of oak, if you have the bottom air blocked off, in the principle is just allow the air come overlapping over the top, remember. So it's going to act kind of like a thin little firebox because the air's, everything's blocked off. The air's coming across the top. And this is just the simplest form with some of the principles of what we've been looking at. And you'll see there's like a 1 brick opening or port up there, 1 brick across. I did something very similar to this. I didn't really know what I was doing in my own Russian stove design, but I allowed, that port, it seems like it's just 1 brick opening. It's bigger than that. And in mine, I'll go back. In mine, I allowed a much bigger opening than a 1 brick. That's like 10 inches across and 6 inches deep. Mine is even a little bit larger. But if the flames are allowed to lap up, if the flames are allowed to lap up through that and then go high, then a lot of the smoke, or almost all the smoke, is eaten up because there's a lot of, whenever they're allowed to lap up high. I remember in that one video, he did have that low ceiling where it hit a low ceiling and swirled and then was allowed to curl around to the front and go up high from there. But and he also has that, again, that mini shelf, that the bricks sticking out, where you have that corridor of air. Let me go back here and pause it. Remember, this element, up, over, up, up, over, up. Again, is one last time, just to help bridge, or is there something to making that channel where the air is flowing up at the top, along the top of the the sticks and wood? Is there something to that to increase draft? And again, here the firebox is so small, there's no air just lapping across the top. It's just this is similar to that side riser rocket stove I just made. But I guess I'm so confused now. I'm kind of all over the place. So let me just finish this video up. I guess I will test different things here. I'll go out back and test and show you the tests. This does, for some reason, very much interest me. And I will test it. I'll test the deep firebox, how to load it. So guys, I'll look to your comments, but I will have this figured out in a month or 6 weeks to see if there's anything to it. And I'm starting to much more favor a hearth firebox if you can get the smoke down, versus grate, where everything just comes through the grate, burns your wood up, waste of wood. Much better to have the hearth and have the coals in the morning. So it's interesting. This is similar to there's a channel called Fox Fish Rocket Stoves. Is it Fox Fish? He does a lot of experiments.